Now, here's a question for you. Are the Tories toast? Well, after almost 14 years in government, it seems that the public is sick and tired of what is, to be honest, a sick and tired party. Well, Sir Keir Starmer's Labour Party have a lead now of more than 20 points in most of the aggregated opinion polls. Though, of course, it must be said that many people look set to vote Labour not because they want Sir Keir Starmer to be Prime Minister, but because they're simply not the Tory party. Are people simply ready for a change, any kind of change? And to repeat the question, are the Tories toast? Well, I'm joined now by Mark Littlewood, who's the director of the Popular Conservatives, and a political commentator, Stella Tsantekidou. Got it right this time.
Yes.
Let's start with you, Mark. Rwanda. Dramatic talk today. These flights will take off. The staff are ready, the planes are ready, the runways are ready, talking tough, vote all night if need be. Could this be the lifeline Rishi Sunak needs?
Well, all of those things might be ready, but as we've already heard on your programme, the lawyers are ready too. That's the only thing that will gum it up, not the practical side of it. But you know what? It could be. You ask, are the Tories toast? I think not. But it's true to say there's quite a lot of singeing around the edges, to put it mildly. What the Prime Minister's looking for, I think, I don't think he believes there's one single policy that can immediately overnight close a gap of 20% in the opinion polls. He's just looking for something that might lead to a tick-up. The Tories are consistently at 20, 25%, that sort of range. If something could just move them up to, let's say, high 20s, 30% of the vote, that would start to look like momentum, albeit from a low base. So I don't think there's anybody in the Conservative Party who thinks this can be turned around. Even if the Rwanda policy gets off the ground, that won't suddenly smash Labour's lead in the polls, but it might just be some momentum, and the Conservatives have been flatlining in the polls for months now. And that'll do for Sunak at the moment, if he can just get that little bit of an upward tick.
Isn't that amazing that any form of life is seen as a good thing? Has to be said, though, Stella, we've spoken from everywhere from Sir Keir Starmer downwards in the Labour Party. They've been quite guarded. They're not taking it as a given that they've got this in the bag. But can a miracle occur? Can these flights take off? Can the Tories get an uptick, or do you think this is a fait accompli now?
It is in the character of Keir Starmer as a leader to be cautious, for sure, and to have this very, very professional outlook. But I think Rishi Sunak is looking extremely desperate. He's looked desperate for some time now, and this look doesn't inspire confidence for the average voter. People who cared about Rwanda, which I think the numbers are diminishing, have already decided they will be voting for reform, and that's what they will be doing whenever the next election comes. Now, my opinion with Rishi Sunak, with dragging this Rwanda policy for this long and trying to convince the voters that, listen, I'm totally going to get these planes, it's going to be great, this Rwanda plan is going to work, it's going to solve our asylum problems. To me, it looks a bit like, you know, when you're asking someone out and they come back to you and they say, no, I don't want to date you, you're not fit enough for me. And then you spend the next 2 months going to the gym, dieting, trying to exercise and trying to convince them, no, I am fit enough, please date me. Say you lose 10 kilos, say you have a six-pack, and you go back to that person and you say, will you please date me now? Am I good looking enough for you now? Do you think they're going to say yes? No, you have completely put them off. They can see through it. It reeks of lack of confidence.
I joined a gym this morning. What's the point of that? On a serious point, Suella Braverman today refused to refused to back Rishi, saying that it's time to change leadership, basically. Of course, Liz Truss, Popcon's favourite in the wings too. A lot of criticism going on. Is it time for a last-ditch change of the man up top, or is it simply too late, Mark?
I don't know. I mean, certainly Liz Truss made plain from America yesterday she doesn't want to see a change in Prime Minister. And I think Suella's said much the same as well. You can only spin the wheel so often, right? We have had 5 Conservative Prime Ministers in a row now. I think that's the most since democracy began. And I think the idea, I mean, it was William Hague who said that the Conservative Party is a dictatorship tempered by regicide, that you occasionally throw your leader over the top. But unless there's monumental evidence that doing that would suddenly lead to a huge boost in the polls, and I've seen no such evidence, I don't think you'll find sufficient Conservative MPs who are willing to throw the dice yet again.
is that? I mean, you're saying that Rishi Sunak simply isn't fit enough. Is there somebody else that might woo the voters? Somebody else that might have a six-pack, but they might have the right solutions, be a bit sexier in terms of actually being a Conservative?
I think that the damage is already done, because everyone as well is looking at the party and they're thinking, this is a completely divided party. Who am I exactly voting for? So even if there is a changing of the guards, I don't think that the voters will be confident enough about what the Conservative Party stands for, because the people that most of the other potential leaders could woo have already decided they are voting for reform. Say Suella Braverman, for example, gets the lead. Why would someone who wants to vote for the Reform Party, and they're already convinced this is the place for them, go back to a Conservative Party that's being led by Suella Braverman, but is still constituted of all the other MPs? And also bear in mind that come the next election, the Conservative Party will have extremely diminished numbers, so the makeup of the party is going to change massively.
But I think the key thing about reform, we don't know. I don't agree with you that those who are saying they are voting reform have absolutely and for certain made their mind up. We often see third parties spike in the opinion polls, and then when the election comes, actually people revert to type. And I would have thought the sensible Conservative strategy is to target those that we have lost to reform.
But how do they do that? I mean, Rwanda's one way.
Rwanda's one way. I think, immigration is definitely a key issue in how you're going to tackle it. And if you're seen to be impotent on that, then I could see the reform vote sticking. I think that they've got to continue the row back from carbon net zero. Rishi Sunak's made a couple of steps in that direction, but delays more than U-turns. I think that would be a good start. And I think they've got to do something to get taxes down. They've tried a minimal thing with national insurance. I think that was insufficient. And if they're going to get taxes down, they've got to find some way of getting spending down as well. I'm not saying that's a silver bullet. I'm not saying that magics everything away and reform falls by the wayside. But the starting point has got to be to win back those supporters that you've lost to a very new upstart third party. Credit to reform. They've done a very good job of getting voters. But I don't think those voters are unwinnable back. And in the heat of a general election, really the choice is going to be whether you want a Conservative government or a Labour one. And that tends to benefit the two major parties when you finally go into the polling station.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Mark and Stella. Superb start to the show, and we'll have more from you guys throughout the show.